Hey Bailey, it's Dr. Scott. So I have some feedback for you on your Essay 2 draft, on the visual analysis draft. Just a quick reminder, the things that I'm looking for in the revision are your thesis statement, that it's focused, that it's making an argument, something that's debatable about two floodwall murals, and that you have good supporting reasons that kind of back up that thesis statement, that explain how you're going to, prove or answer your thesis statement. I'm also looking for supporting details. So in the body paragraphs, are you providing me details and then explaining how those details support or back up your paper's overall argument? I'm also looking at organization and transitions and paraphrases, being able to integrate a couple paraphrases, and then there's other criteria like in-text citations, works cited, and page formatting, integrating a visual, all that kind of stuff. Right now, though, I think your essay, where we need to kind of focus our attention and what this screencast is going to kind of cover in depth, is thesis statement and using supporting details. So when I read your essay, I love your ability to you're really doing a great job writing about specific details, and I see that throughout the essay. So that's awesome. Where the essay needs to go from there is more discussion about how those details support this argument that you have, like more discussion of those details and how they help you defend or support the thesis statement that you have. So I think before we kind of get into talking about that, I think figuring out what exactly the thesis statement is pretty important. Right now, it feels like it's this paragraph here, or this sentence right here. The Branch Rickey and Roy Rogers murals represent various Portsmouth historical figures and what their accomplishments mean to the area. This is pretty vague, like what they mean. I want you to kind of make an argument that says, here's what I think they mean. That's step one. Step two to the thesis statement is, okay, they mean this. Here's how they get that meaning across. And it might be something like this: through the use of blah, blah, blah. Context, expressions, colors, like you write about a bunch of different things. Whatever your list is here of ways that they get that meaning across, those are your body paragraphs. So you got a paragraph about expressions, color, and context. I don't know if you have a paragraph about color yet. You mentioned it, but I don't know if you're actually writing a paragraph about it. So that, and then you kind of need to explain what that meaning is, but that's getting you a little bit closer to a thesis statement that you can kind of, where I can kind of see where the argument's going, and it's a little bit more focused. Again, that has to get sorted out, and I think that's your next step. In the paragraphs, again, I'm loving the detail that you have. Contrast of the portrait consists of his portrait consists of tans, browns, whites, and some blue compared to the shamrock green field. Like, I love that. The specific details. If this is a paragraph about facial expressions or about actions depicted in the murals, I'm not sure that that color discussion works. You need to kind of explain that. But for me, like, I love your use of detail. Where you need to go from there is explaining how that detail supports your thesis statement. So if, like, the meaning is that Portsmouth is proud of its sports heritage and the impact that we've had in the country, like, why is the detail about Ricky's mouth and his smirk, possibly watching a baseball game, why is that significant? Well, that it might feel like a little bit of a stretch, but I think that you can, he's confident. This is a man that's lived a pretty full life. He's been pretty well accomplished, and this is not somebody that feels like he has to hang his head in shame. He's confidently looking. He's got his trademark cigar, and it's not just celebrating him as a player; it's celebrating him and his entire life and all the accomplishments that he's had. So I think that there's a lot of work to be done to kind of say, all right, here's some detail. The next step is to say, here's what I think that detail means in terms of my paper's overall thesis statement. So I think figuring out this, what your paragraphs are actually going to be about, that is the second step after you figure out what is that meaning. and the two are connected. So if you're writing about expressions, how does that relate to the meaning? If you're writing about color, how might it relate to that meaning? Pride definitely works. I think that there's a number of things that you could write. In the second paragraph, it seems like you're writing about how the murals are trying to remind us of these people. I think that's what you were trying to get at. It's kind of like the Ricky mural is providing us a lot of information about him so that we don't forget what he did. And the Roy Rogers mural is kind of funky in that it doesn't provide us a lot of information about him. I don't think it does. I think you kind of made the argument that it did, or no, you said it's subtle. We know he's from the country western genre, but we don't really know what he did, which is weird. So they have one mural that provides us a lot of information. They have another mural that doesn't provide us as much information. And I think a reasonable argument that you might have is that as far as like saying this is the history that we should be proud of, one mural might have done a better job than the other. That's an argument that you can take up. That's something that you can defend and debate. So to kind of sum up where you're at with this paper, you need to clarify the paper's argument, its thesis statement, and how you're going to support it. You're going to talk about colors, you're going to talk about facial expressions, you're going to talk about context clues and how maybe one was more explicit about those contextual clues to show what these people did, the impact that these people had. And then the second point is to interpret your details and connect them to the paper's overall argument. So you got a ways to go, but I love the use of detail that you have. I love that you're writing about interesting murals that I don't see a lot of papers about. And I actually think that there's something there with these two murals. If you want to chat about this a little bit further, there'll be time in class tomorrow. There'll also be time later this week or early next week. All right, so that's it for now. I'll talk to you soon, Bayley.